paisa no se le por favor.
Can you hear me online? Is the recording on?
Yes.
Okay. Who's he? Introduces it. Okay.
Katha Opening Sutra.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Roshi.
Blue Hall online. You can collect the secret books, yeah. So I'd like to share with you a case from the Blue Cliff Record. It's case 42, Layman Pang's Good Snowflakes. When Layman Pang took leave of Yaoshang, Yaoshang ordered 10 of his Chan guests or monks to escort him to the gate. The layman pointed to the snow in the air and said, "Good snowflakes, they don't fall in any other place." At the time, one of the Chan monks or guests named Chuan said, "Where do they fall?" And then Layman Pang slapped him once. And Chuan said, "Even a layman shouldn't be so coarse." The layman said, "Though you call yourself a Chan monk this way, the king of death still won't let you go." Chuan said, "How about you, layman?" Again. The layman slapped him and said, "Your eyes see like a blind man. Your mouth speaks like a mute." In Shuito's comment, "When Pang first spoke, I just would have made a snowball and hit him with it." Layman Pang. Yaoshan is Yakusan Iken. That's a teacher whose monastery he was at. And Yakusan was a successor of Shito, Sekito, who was one of the great teachers in our lineage. There was two great teachers at the beginning of the Tang Dynasty, Shito and Matsu. And Shito's line developed as the Soto school, of which we are part, and then Matsu's, or Baso's line, developed as the Rinzai line, which we're also part of. So here we have Layman Pang, who is a lay teacher. He's not a monk, he's very popular in China. As the stories go, both his daughter and his wife were equally enlightened as he was. And we have this situation where he's leaving the monastery, much like here, where it's a snowstorm. And as he's leaving, he makes his comment, "Good snowflakes, they don't fall in any other place." Well, where do they fall? Are they falling here? Are they falling out there? Are we talking about a story in China? So take a moment to take this in, the situation. We have also been in a snowstorm here in Chicago, Oak Park. Scientists say that there is no one snowflake that is the same. Not one. It's theoretically possible there could be two that are the same. But each snowflake is formed from a multitude of conditions: temperature, humidity, the currents in the air. So each snowflake, how many snowflakes are there out there? Each one is unique. Each one. And then they all return back to a puddle of water. Dogen said the entire universe is one bright pearl. a single radiance expressing itself in many different shapes and forms. No two alike, and yet none separate. So when Layman Pang says, good snowflakes, they don't fall in any other place, he's not talking about the pretty weather. He's not singing the song, I'm dreaming of... He's not singing that song. What's he talking about? Talking about intimacy. We are here in Ongo, coming to the end of a 3-month training. We have been learning to take our seats in our respective roles in the middle of the storm of life. And the snowflake only falls here. Not in some beautiful, idealistic, theoretical world, but in the world full of storms, violence, cruelty, and uncertainty. Each thing lands where it belongs. Each moment, this moment, it's complete. It can't be repeated. It's already gone. This is not fatalism. It's not some material philosophy of determinism. It's intimacy. It's the intrinsic value of life, of the universe, of each of us, of the snowflake, of the trees. We live in a postmodern culture that says value is a made-up thing. That's creating a lot of trouble. If the trees aren't intrinsically valuable, then they're just something we can extract and turn into a commodity. Is that what life is? Are we just commodities? Isn't life good, beautiful, and true intrinsically? So nothing is out of place in the universe. Everything is unfolding as it does. The sun rises. Snowflakes come out of wherever they come out of. Some are big, some are small. Some last a while and stick around, some disappear in a minute. You're not supposed to be someone else other than who you are. You're not supposed to be farther along, wiser, calmer, more perfect, more spiritual than you are. This is where the snowflake's falling. And then there's another mind that's less intimate, that we're all familiar with, aren't we? The one that argues with the weather. The one that says, I should be more disciplined right now. I should be able to sit better without moving. I should have less pain in my legs. I shouldn't be so restless. All this black, it's irritating. My relationship should be less complicated. The video camera should work better. This is the mind that insists that the snowflakes should fall somewhere else. Maybe they should fall on the neighbor's lawn. This is the mind that compares, regrets, worries, judges, competes, wants to win, afraid of losing. Frames the world as winning and losing. Zero-sum game. Layman Pang is standing where he stands. He's not wrestling with the weather. And there's great freedom here. The snow doesn't need any improving, nor does Layman Pang, nor do you. The central, maybe most important teaching of Zen is this teaching of shunyata, emptiness. It has many names. And it's profound and difficult to understand because we can't understand it with our conceptual mind. It's not possible. Maybe one word that we use for this that comes to mind in this context is suchness. And that word has that implication, doesn't it, of intimacy. Uchiyama Roshi had this famous saying of opening the hand of thought. Just open. Open your heart. Open to life. Open to the joy. Open to the song. Because the fist that clings can never catch the snowflake. Only the open palm can receive it. Just for this moment, and then it melts as soon as it hits your palm. So, good snowflakes doesn't mean a pleasant or a pretty snowflake, although they are pretty. It means appropriate, complete, perfect. It's good because the universe is good. The world is good. Intrinsically good. That's not a made-up thing. Our practice isn't about positive thinking. Although that's probably good to do from time to time. It's not about trying to be perfect, because you already are. It's about allowing intimacy to be here and to replace the resistance that we have towards struggle, towards suffering. Sometimes snow falls, it's light, doesn't accumulate, melts right away. Sometimes, like the last couple of days, it's very heavy, keeps snowing and it accumulates, it gets heavy. It's hard to dig your car out of the snow, and it's hard to get here for meditation on time. Gives you a good excuse for being late. The Buddha didn't teach how to avoid winter. Did he? No. No, he taught us how to... He didn't teach us how to avoid sickness. The Buddha died just like each one of us will. He got sick. He taught us how to walk through the winter without losing our way. Snowflakes they're all different. Some are light, some are heavy. But they always fall in the place where they land. You can complain about your troubles. I certainly do. June hears it all the time about the computers and the IT and the videos. Oh my gosh. And you can try blaming others if that works for you. But at the end of the day, you're stuck with yourself. And you go to sleep. And you're in your dreams, you're in a wild land of stuff going on. It's your life. Now somebody else's, yours. Well, you fall where you belong. You land where you belong. Apparently you belong in Sesshin. You found yourself here, and you may not have, didn't quite know what you were signing up for. Yeah. You're here in your life, in the Zendo, in your home, on Zoom. This is the season of your life with your particular unique life, your joys, your sorrows, your trials, your challenges, your insecurities, your gifts. This is not an accident. Not an accident that you're here. Each snowflake is formed by infinite conditions, numerous conditions, way more than we can understand. and each snowflake is melting back into water. Each wave going back, joining the larger ocean of liberation, the ocean of truth, our true nature. There are many Zen stories like this koan. For instance, there's the one where a monk asks Master Joshu, he says, why did Bodhidharma come from the West? And, you know, this is a stock question in Zen. It's like, what's the essence of Zen? That's what the question is. Why did Bodhidharma come from the West? And Joshu says, points to an oak tree out in the courtyard and says, the oak tree in the garden. Just that. No philosophy, no mysticism, just this. Snowflakes fall where they fall. The oak tree is rooted where it grows. So then at the end of, not the end of his life, but we have some stories of Layman Pang, and he was very popular in China. And one story, now he studied with both Mazu and Shitao, the two great Zen pioneers of our tradition. And once he asked Mazu, he says, what man doesn't keep company with the 10,000 dharmas? And Mazu replied, I'll tell you when you swallow all the water in West River. And at that, he was enlightened. And he wrote the following poem. He said, my daily activities are not unusual. I just remain natural at home, grasping nothing, discarding nothing. The miraculous power is pulling water and carrying firewood. So I'd like to go a little further now with this koan and relate this to Vimalakirti, who is also another lay teacher from India, also very popular in China. Both Layman Pang and Vimalakirti was also a lay teacher. And I think they were popular because, you know, a lot of times the monastics would kind of be arrogant and green, young, and the Chinese love these stories where a layman gave a young monk his comeuppance. Mm-hmm. You know, the monastics sometimes were felt entitled. Somehow they were special. And so the Chinese love these stories about these lay teachers that were greatly enlightened. And Vimalakirti is one of them. And I'm bringing up Vimalakirti because the story is very rich, and we have all kinds of teachings about Vimalakirti from the Vimalakirti Sutra. Now, Layman Pang lived in the kind of middle Tang dynasty, just when really Zen was beginning to take shape and be born into what we often refer to as the golden age of Zen, the late Tang and the Sung dynasty. Vimalakirti lived about 500 years after, so-called after the Buddha, but in the sutra that the Buddha is telling his disciples to go visit Vimalakirti, so it's a sutra. So It's not necessarily accurate in terms of time, it's timeless. It's a timeless story. And it's interesting because Vimalakirti is coming into his teaching at a time when there was this tension between the Hinayana, the Theravada early tradition, and the Mahayana was just beginning to form. And there was this real tension between the two. Because the Theravadas believed in, the original Pali Sutras, the teachings of the Buddha, and these Mahayanas were starting to talk about bodhisattvas and saving other sentient beings, which did not occur to most of the practitioners in the Theravada tradition. We call them Pratyeka Buddhas, private Buddhas, because they were definitely concerned about waking up, but only for themselves. They weren't particularly interested in helping anyone else wake up. So there was this tension. And so this story, as it takes place, I can't go through the whole sutra, but we'll go through parts of it because it's really worthwhile. And there's quite a bit of humor in this sutra too, which is always good. So the story develops around this peaceful and generous heart in a world of sorrows, violence and selfishness. And sometimes the sutra is known as the reconciliation of dualities. And there's a lot of puzzles that we're presented with Vimalakirti. He was apparently extremely wealthy, but he gave all his money away to poor people. And he lived in an estate with a family, but he seems to have always been alone. And even though he lived in some beautiful estate, he seemed to just occupy this 10 by 10 foot room. Yeah. And he was a deeply enlightened person, but he seems to have often been sick. He doesn't seem to want to be elevated. And he says, I'm sick because the whole world is sick. This is not a self-help program from the New Age, is it? A Mesalon. This is not that. No, this is the axial age. The axial age was this time when most of the world religions were born. Great teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Shakyamuni, Muhammad. All these were born in the axial age. And the axial age was also the Iron Age, when iron was invented. And it was a very violent age. There was a lot of war. A lot of violence. So you can imagine many people were depressed. Many people were anxious, scared, fearful of that violence. And the kings that ruled slowly took more power to themselves, increased their tracts of land, and didn't respect the Brahmins or the Vedic teachings in India. They didn't respect them at all. They respected power. Sound familiar? So the sutra opens on a scene where the Buddha is instructing the Dharma to his disciples. And it's like a large number, like 23,000 disciples are gathered listening to the Buddha talk. And as I said before, these are what we call Pratyeka Buddhas, private Buddhas, because they've woken up through their own efforts, but they make no attempt to assist anyone else in doing so. And in this gathering with his disciples, the Buddha says, you know, that fellow Vimalakirti over in his place, he's sick. Would some of you go visit him? No one volunteers. They know about Vimalakirti. And they don't want to be embarrassed. They're like, he's totally intimidating, so no one volunteers. They're like, anyone want to raise their hand? No, like this. So finally, Manju Sri volunteers.
Yes.
And now that Manju Sri has volunteered, they all feel like, okay, we're going to all just follow Manju Sri and troop on over there and see what Manju Sri does with Vimalakirti. So they all troop on over there. 32,000 of them. Now, Vimalakirti he's actually, this is kind of a teaching about upayas or expedient means. He's come up quite a lot in the sutras, like in the Lotus Sutra, there's a lot of this. But Vimalakirti is pretending to be sick out of compassion, because then people will come visit him and he has an opportunity to teach them something about the Dharma. But he's pretending to be sick. So they all arrive at Vimalakirti's estate, and there seems to be no one there except Vimalakirti in this 10 by 10 foot room. And somehow, miraculously, they all fit in the room. All 32,000 in a 10 by 10. And you know, this 10 by 10 foot room became the standard by which Doksan rooms were made in Japan and China. They're always 10 foot by 10 foot after Vimalakirti. So they're all in this room, and Shariputra, who somehow, I don't remember how he got in the sutra, but he was tagging along. And so this Shariputra, he's there, and he remarks to Vimalakirti, he says, "But sir, the room is completely empty and there are no chairs for anyone to sit on." And they all seem to fit in the room, which makes no impression on Shariputra, who is only concerned about having a place to sit. And so Vimalakirti asks him, "Did you come for the way, or are you looking for a place to sit?" Are you going to follow the way, even if it leads you to a stuffy, sick room? Or a dying parent? Or a sick spouse, brother, sister, pet, dog, cat? Vimalakirti is saying, give up everything, follow the way. Just let go. Trust the universe, it'll carry you along. And he lists all the religious orthodoxies to be given up. The Four Noble Truths, Nirvana, the Three Treasures, all of these are putting something between you and the way. The way, the wild and undomesticated way, the Tao. Now, being a good host, there's this always this metaphor in Zen about the host and the guest, the absolute and the relative, the one and the many, the basic perennial teaching, isn't it? It's again the teaching about emptiness, one and the many, both. So being a good host, Vimalakirti contacts a Buddha in another realm and orders 32,000 lion throne chairs to be brought down and put in the 10 by 10 foot room. And they're all put in the room, and miraculously from the outside, nothing is deformed, you know. The room looks just like it. It's not bulging in any places or anywhere. It's not falling down or anything. You can't tell it. Nothing has changed. And miraculously, they all have a chair to sit in now. Because he's being a good host. It's just like when we do the Gate of Sweet Nectar, right? If you invite the hungry ghosts in here, and they're not all beautiful people. Some of them are crazy. Some of them smell. Some of them are scary. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are peeking through the window, like Mark is right now. Good entrance, Mark.
Great, I'm glad.
Good. I was just talking about the hungry ghosts.
Say
And
that
we
again?
saw you. I was just talking about the hungry ghosts, and we saw you peeking
Well,
through
there
the
it
window.
was.
Yeah, so- yeah, you can come in. Just he's brought some toys.
Yeah.
So just like when we do the hey Sesshin. So being a good host, when we invite the hungry ghosts in, then we have to unconditionally receive them. If you invite them in, you have to take care of them. You have to give them what they need. What do they need? Well, they don't need teachings about enlightenment, I can tell you that. They need a warm blanket. They need some soup. They need some food. Maybe they need to be listened to. Yeah, you know, we have this practice of bearing witness, which is really about being on the same level as somebody, not being above them in any way. And I once did a street retreat in Seattle, and I was hanging out on this bench with a homeless person, and he was kind of out there. He was talking about he'd been in Vietnam and Eli, and he'd gone to Mars last night, and I'm just like, okay, sitting there with him, kind of a little incredulous, you know, like this guy is a little loopy. And then I was walking back to that park, and I walked by the bench, and there was another homeless guy sitting on the bench with him. And this other guy was just right there with him, saying, "Really, you were at Mars, and you were in Mili." Right there with it. So I think the deeper teaching here about Vimalakirti, which is really extraordinary, is that his illness is part of his uncompromising and unconditional acceptance and embrace of the world as it is. And the world as it is has joys and sorrows of plenty. It has bodhisattvas and it has kings. It has killers and it has people that give life, midwives. And you know, Vimalakirti's allegiance is to this world. And when he's speaking of illness, he's speaking of whatever is out of balance, whatever is out of kilter in our lives. The Hopis refer to this as koyanaskatsi. Literally means life out of balance. refers to a way of life that's chaotic, morally out of alignment, characterized by turmoil. And they have many stories about this in the Hopi tradition. There's one called the Blue Star Kachina Prophecy. And they speak in this prophecy of a future time when the world will be out of balance. The seasons will no longer be what they once were. People will live in fear and confusion. And the prophecy goes on and describes a time when materialism, greed, and forgetting the sacredness of life creates a global state of Koyaanisqatsi. And a Hopi elder once summarized his teaching in this way. He said, if we dig precious things from the land, we will invite disaster. If we lose respect for all living beings, chaos will follow. There's another Hopi story, the snake story. In one of the Hopi traditional folk tales, a boy captures this brilliant and magical snake, and he keeps it in a jar because he wants its beauty for himself. And as soon as he does this, the rains stop falling, the crops begin to wither. So the elders explain to the boy that you cannot take what is sacred and make it yours alone. You can't possess it. You can't put it in a vault. Life depends on respecting the roles of all beings. And when the boy releases the snake back to its home, the rains return. Now, this will all be familiar to all of us because we are in a time of Koyaanisqatsi. And it's not that we shouldn't advocate for what is good and right and just, and it's not that we shouldn't protest if protest needs to be done. But at the same time, as bodhisattvas, the samsara doesn't upset us anymore. You can't have nirvana without samsara. So, Vimalakirti's teaching is deep. He understands the world is out of balance. He understands there's greed, anger, and ignorance. He knows there's kings that want power into themselves and will do everything they can to keep that power, including exporting immigrants and doing whatever they need to do. He understands all that. And yet, he embraces this world 100%, 120%. That doesn't mean he's condoning the bad, but for him, it's all the Pure Land. And he's asking us to transform our attitude from enduring our misfortune to completely, wholeheartedly embracing it. Be an unbalanced being in an unbalanced world. I'm sick because the whole world is sick. How could it be otherwise? So this is the Bodhisattva path of Mahayana. It's the path of our tradition. Each of you are Bodhisattva. We wouldn't be here. We're all Bodhisattvas in training. And you know, there are many different Bodhisattvas in the world. All kinds of Bodhisattvas, just like snowflakes. Yeah, there's, let's see, there's the unblinking Bodhisattva. There's the wonderful arm Bodhisattva. There's a jewel hand Bodhisattva. There's so many. There's the lion mind Bodhisattva. There's a pure emancipation Bodhisattva. There's a universal maintenance Bodhisattva. Got to keep that car tuned up and running, even though it's burning a lot of oil. The jewel courage Bodhisattva. The roots of joy Bodhisattva. The joyful vision Bodhisattva. The sounds of thunder Bodhisattva. The serene capacity Bodhisattva. The store of virtue Bodhisattva. The delights in the real Bodhisattva. The viewing equality Bodhisattva. The viewing inequality Bodhisattva. And others too numerous to go on with. I'm sure I've forgotten and left some out. So which one are you? The fingers crossed Bodhisattva? The seat of your pants Bodhisattva? So in our tradition, it is our way to go beyond being private Buddhas. We aren't here just for ourselves because who we are isn't alone. We are not alone. We belong here with all beings, with each other, with the Sangha. We aren't alone. So there's this sense that we do this work together. We help each other. I once heard one say that, and it was interesting, you know, you don't build trust by helping others. You build trust by asking for help. We are the way the universe is being conscious of itself. Through us, the universe can see itself. We are made of stardust, literally. So everything in our world is engaged in the work of awakening. The evolutionary drive of eros and love. Always an unfinished work in progress. Always reaching for deeper wholeness, deeper intimacy. Everything is its own kind of bodhisattva. All the kin. Donkey bodhisattvas. Squirrel bodhisattvas. Buffalo bodhisattvas. Rock bodhisattvas. Prairie grass bodhisattvas. Snowflake bodhisattvas. Fool's gold bodhisattvas. Which one are you? So we have time, 5 minutes. We have a little time for discussion or questions, if you have any. Go. Oh.
Thanks again, Roshi, for a wonderful talk. What came to mind was there's a TV show.
Can you take your mask off just to talk, because it's hard to hear? Yeah.
There's a TV show that's playing right now, and I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's called Pluribus. But aliens come down and make everybody on Earth happy, except for 11 people.
I'm not hearing this. What?
Aliens come down to Earth
Yeah.
and make everybody on the planet happy.
Well, that's what's going to happen?
This is a TV show,
I see.
except for 11 people.
Except for 11 people.
11 people. And it's a really fascinating show because one of the people just wants things back the way it was, her miserable existence back.
They want to go back to the 1950s. They kind of had this sentimental idea of America.
Everybody's smiling all the time.
Typical American family.
Everybody's helping everybody out, and she's just can't deal with it. She just it's
always one.
great
It's
show.
always that one.
That's what I was thinking about. The struggle.
What's the name of the show?
It's on Apple TV. I think it's called Pluribus or Pluribus.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah, she's the one that. Yeah. The Japanese call that the nail that sticks up. It needs to be hammered down.
Thank you, Roshi. I wanted to ask you about feeding hungry ghosts.
Uh-huh.
If you, let's say you're feeding a hungry ghost and it keeps on asking for more and
Yeah.
more and
Yeah.
more, how do you know when to stop one is enough, or how
When
much
they
can you
stop
give?
asking for more.
What if they don't ever stop? They ask for
Maybe
everything.
you're not feeding them well enough. Maybe you're not feeding them what they need to be satisfied. Maybe you're talking to them about the wrong thing. I did what's it called? Feeding your demon practice at the beginning of the pandemic. What's her name? Lama. Anyone remember her name? She's a Tibetan American teacher. Developed this practice. It's a Tibetan practice, feeding your demon. And I did it right when we closed the center, when the pandemic had just come to Oak Park, and we were in the middle of a Sesshin, and it's the only Sesshin we ever stopped in the mid. And I was determined to keep the Zen Center open because I thought we should be a oasis for everyone. And I had board members and other people telling me we should close the center. And we were in Sesshin, and I remember hearing the first day that the pandemic had arrived in Oak Park, and I knew in my body at that moment that we had to close the center. Because it was not worth risking. We didn't know what we didn't know. And the idea that we would continue the retreat and someone would die, get sick and die, was just not acceptable. So we stopped the retreat, but I kept going. And I took up this practice of feeding your demon. And usually when we think of this is a very Tibetan way of, Mahayana, Vajrayana way of thinking about negativity. Because usually we want to get rid of the negative. We want to get rid of those things that we think are neurotic or whatever they are. And we often have war metaphors for fighting those things, fighting cancer, winning, all these kind of war metaphors for overcoming that which we don't like. And in the Tibetan practice, you actually invite the instead of fighting it, you invite it in. And it's very skillful because the way you do it is you actually you sit and you visualize you give birth to your demon. You embody it, and you have it sit in a chair opposite you, and you imagine your demon there, and with as much detail as possible, the clothing, the eyes, the face, everything. Is it the gender, whatever. And then once you've got the demon there, you ask it what it wants, what it needs. And my demon was quite hungry, and he had a lot of vitality, and he wanted everything. He wanted more. So I kept saying, "You want more? Okay, you want more. You want chocolate? You want sweets? You want steak? What do you want? Just you want sex? He wants it all." And the interesting thing in this practice is and you also exchange places with the demon. So you become the demon and talk to yourself as your other self, and so you go back and forth. So it becomes pretty real, energetically. And there was some point where he was full. He disappeared. And what came in his place was this beautiful white Tara figure. Beautiful. More beautiful than any white Tara I've ever seen in a Tonka painting. Not exactly a white Tara, but this beautiful, translucent, feminine bodhisattva that gave me everything. Got me through the pandemic. And gave me more than I could ever have wanted. It was this rich source of infinite nurturing and love, unconditional love. And that was a very powerful experience for me. And so I think we're all hungry ghosts. I think that's the first thing, we're all addictive. We all can be addicted to various things. And instead of being ashamed of it and sort of denying it, I think it's much better to just accept the fact that we're human beings, and one of the 6 realms of suffering is the hungry ghost. And there are various degrees of hungry ghosts. There are hungry ghosts that, the image of the hungry ghost is this being with a long skinny neck and a big head, kind of like you would see a starving child, with a bloated stomach in there. So when they try to eat, they can't swallow the food because it hurts. So that's a metaphor, right? The Tibetans actually take these things quite literally. I tend to think of things more metaphorically and psychologically. So that's a metaphor for that place where we are never filled up. We're always eating, but we're never satisfied. We're always wanting more. So in the Gate of Sweet Nectar, which is, by the way, a treasure of our lineage, and rightfully so, it's a beautiful service. Yeah? Beautiful. We're inviting those hungry ghosts to come and be here. And then we're offering them what they need first. So it might not be healing the source of the suffering yet, but it's a Band-Aid, it's a warm blanket, it's soup, it's something they need. And then when they've been fed, when they're relatively satisfied, then there might be a time when you raise the Bodhi mind. And now you give them the teaching that actually heals the suffering, the root of the suffering. But that's kind of like skillful means. It's kind of like Vimalakirti. Yeah? So there's a time, the way that you heal that suffering is how you connect and work with that in yourself. And when you can, I think when we can acknowledge that we are hungry ghosts, then it gives us a capacity to be with other hungry ghosts with less, we're not intimidated by that suffering or that hunger. And we can understand it better, and then we can be with it and work with it. That's how I would say it. Yeah.
Thank you, Roshi.
Okay, I think it's time for lunch. Okay, thank you, everyone.